Ever stop and think about how many things in your life are held together by screws?
Yeah.
Your phone, your chair, your house. It's
Mhm.
mind-blowing. Today, we're going on a deep dive
That's right.
into the surprising world of this tiny but mighty fastener.
It is surprising.
I know, right?
Yeah, we're diving into
Yeah.
Screwed, How Robertson Got Screwed by J. Christopher Westlund.
Oh, that's a great book.
You wouldn't believe the twists and turns in the history of this seemingly simple object.
Usually, I thought screws were,
Right.
well, just screws.
Yeah.
But there's a whole story of innovation, competition, and even a dash of what if. Get this. The screws journey starts all the way back in ancient Greece.
5th century BC, to be precise.
Wow.
Yeah, a philosopher and inventor named Archytas of Tarentum.
Okay.
A brilliant mind known for his work in math, music, A&D mechanics is credited with coming up with the screw.
Wow.
Huh?
I had no idea screws were that old. But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
These early screws were made of wood. Can you imagine?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
They were mainly used in presses for things like wine olive oil, even
Darn.
clothing.
Wow.
Talk about a different world.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So from ancient wooden screws to the metal ones we use today, how did we get here?
Yeah.
It couldn't have been a straight line, right?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It took centuries for metal screws to appear around the 15th century.
Right.
And even then, they were handmade pricey and not exactly perfect.
Oh, wow.
Think more like a craft than a mass-produced item.
I can only imagine the patience required to make those early screws.
Yeah.
So when did things start to change?
The 18th century brought industrialization, and with it, mass-produced screws at a much more affordable price.
Okay.
But hold on, there's a catch. These early machine-made screws weren't pointed.
Wait, what? No point.
Yeah.
How did they even use them?
Picture this. You want to screw something together, but first you need to pre-drill a hole because the screw can't pierce the material itself. Talk about a time-consuming process.
Okay, that sounds incredibly frustrating.
Yes,
It's no wonder inventors started looking for a better way to design the screw head.
absolutely.
That's got to be where things get interesting, right?
Absolutely. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were like a screwhead design frenzy.
Wow.
Inventors were obsessed with finding a design that was easier to use, more secure, and more efficient.
Makes sense.
They tried everything from magnetic screwdrivers to double-slotted screws.
It's like the Wild West of screw design.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing not all those ideas were winners.
You got it.
Yeah.
Some designs were ingenious, some were duds.
Right.
But in this race for screw supremacy, two key players emerged.
Yeah.
The Robertson and the Phillips screw.
Ah, the battle of the screw heads.
Yeah,
Let's start with the Robertson, the Canadian contender.
that's right.
Yeah.
In 1908, Canadian inventor Peter Robertson patented his square recess screw head.
Okay.
Legend has it, he got the idea after injuring himself with a slotted screwdriver.
Oh, yeah.
We've all been there, right?
Oh, tell me about it. I can't count how many times I've cursed a slipping screwdriver.
Right.
So what made Robertson's design so special?
The square recess was brilliant in its simplicity.
Okay.
It provided a much better grip for the screwdriver, reducing slippage, and something called cam out.
Cam out. I'm not familiar with that term.
It's basically when the screwdriver slips out of the screw head.
Oh, right.
Super annoying in everyday life,
Yeah.
but on a fast-paced assembly line, it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Robertson's design practically eliminated that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So did Robertson's invention catch on?
big time, especially in Canada.
Okay.
The Fisher Body Company, the folks who built car bodies for the Ford Model T,
Right.
jumped on the Robertson bandwagon and started using them on their production line.
Wow.
It was a game changer.
No kidding. The Model T was a revolutionary car, so using Robertson screws must have been a testament to their quality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To this day, a whopping 85% of screws sold in Canada are Robertsons. They even introduced color-coded screwdrivers to make life easier for everyone.
Color-coded screwdrivers. Now that's clever. It seemed like Robertson was destined for world domination, right?
It certainly looked that way,
Yeah.
but as we know, the world of screws is full of surprises.
Oh, no.
Enter Henry F. Phillips and his X-shaped socket head design in the early 1930s.
Ah, the challenger approaches. So how did the Phillips screw, with its cross-shaped head, manage to compete with the seemingly superior Robertson?
Well, the Phillips screw had a bit of a rocky start.
Oh, really?
It was actually rejected by several companies before the American screw cone saw its potential.
Okay.
They managed to convince General Motors to use it in their 1936 Cadillacs.
Cadillacs, that's a pretty big name to have on your side. So what was the selling point of the Phillips screw? Why did General Motors choose it over the Robertson?
The key advantage for the auto industry was something called controlled cam-out.
Okay.
Remember how the Robertson design practically eliminated cam-out?
Yeah.
Well, the Phillips screw took it a step further. With controlled cam-out, the screwdriver would actually slip OUT of the screw head once a certain torque was reached.
Wait, so it's designed to slip. That sounds counterintuitive.
It might sound strange, but think about it from an assembly line perspective.
Okay.
With controlled cam-out, workers could use powered screwdrivers without worrying about over-tightening and stripping the screws or damaging the materials.
Right.
It was a perfect fit for the increasingly automated world of car manufacturing.
Okay, I see the logic there.
Yeah.
Automation was starting to take off in the 1930s, so the Phillips screw was definitely well-timed.
It was.
Did this give it an edge over the Robertson?
It definitely played a role.
Okay.
General Motors was a powerhouse in the auto industry, and their adoption of the Phillips screw gave it massive exposure.
Right.
It quickly spread throughout the American market.
Okay.
But that's not the whole story.
There's more. This screw saga just keeps getting more and more intriguing.
It does.
What happened next? Okay, so we've got this Canadian screw taking the world by storm, at least in Canada, and then this American upstart comes along and shakes things up. I'm on the edge of my seat here. What happened to the Robertson? Did it just fade into obscurity?
Not exactly. It continued to be popular in Canada. Remember those 85% stats we talked about? But globally, it faced a formidable opponent in the Phillips. This is where that Betamax effect we mentioned earlier really comes into play.
Right. The whole better technology, not always winning thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mind-boggling concept. So how did the Phillips screw, which you said even had a rocky start, end up dominating the market?
Well, a few things happened. First, World War II broke out.
Oh, wow.
With wartime production ramping up, the need for efficient and reliable fastening systems became even more critical. The United States was a major supplier of military equipment, and guess what kind of screws they were using?
Phillips, I'm assuming.
Yep. So as tanks, airplanes, jeeps, and weapons were being shipped worldwide, so was the Phillips screw. Talk about a global marketing campaign you can't buy.
Wow. I never thought about the role of war in the screw's journey. But it still seems crazy that the Robertson, with its superior grip and all, didn't stand a chance.
It really highlights how timing and context can influence which technologies succeed. The Phillips screw, with its controlled cam-out, was perfectly suited for the booming auto industry, and the rise of automated assembly lines, the war just amplified its reach.
So it's not always about being the best, but about being the best fit for the moment. It's making me wonder if there are other examples of this throughout history.
Oh, absolutely. Think about VHS versus Betamax, the classic example. Betamax was arguably the superior technology for video cassettes, but VHS won the market share battle. Sometimes factors like marketing industry support and even plain luck play a bigger role than technical superiority.
It's a good reminder that innovation isn't always a straightforward path. But let's get back to World War II for a second. We talked earlier about those incompatible screw threads causing trouble for the Allied troops. What a nightmare scenario. Were they ever able to solve that problem?
The war definitely exposed the vulnerability of having different screw thread standards. Can you imagine trying to fix a tank in the heat of battle, only to find out your wrench doesn't fit because your allies use different screws? It was a logistical nightmare that could even jeopardize missions.
Seriously, that's insane. In the middle of the World War, you'd think having compatible screws would be a top priority, so how did they fix it?
It became a major focus during the post-war reconstruction. The challenges faced by Allied forces underlined the need for a unified system, not just for military equipment, but for all manufacturing and engineering. And this is where the metric system, with its consistent 60-degree thread angle, started gaining traction.
It seems so obvious now. Having a standardized system makes you wonder why it took a world war to get there.
It's a good illustration of how sometimes it takes a major event to shake things up and push for change. The war highlighted the inefficiencies and even dangers of incompatible systems driving the adoption of a global standard.
So those pesky incompatible screws might have inadvertently helped pave the way for a more unified world, at least in terms of measurements. Who knew those tiny threads held so much historical significance?
It's fascinating how something we take for granted today has such a rich and complex backstory, and it's a testament to human ingenuity that we were able to overcome these challenges and develop standardized systems that benefit us all.
Okay, before we move on, I want to circle back to the inventors for a moment. We've talked about Robertson and Phillips, but what about the countless others who contributed to the screw's evolution over the centuries? They deserve some recognition too, right?
Absolutely. From Archytas of Tarentum, who first envisioned the screw in ancient Greece, to all those unsung heroes who tinkered and toiled to improve its design and functionality, we owe them a debt of gratitude. Their collective efforts have truly shaped the world we live in.
It's a humbling thought, realizing how many minds have worked on this seemingly simple object throughout history. It's also a testament to the power of human curiosity and the constant drive to improve upon what already exists. Okay, so we've covered the origins, the rivalry, the war, and the standardization. What else is there to discover in the world of screws? So far, we've uncovered a surprisingly dramatic history for the humble screw.
Yeah, it
Really?
is.
But you hinted at even broader impacts on things like global trade
Right.
and the future of manufacturing.
Uh-huh.
Help me wrap my head around that. What do screws have to do with international commerce?
Well, picture a world without screws.
Okay.
How would we build complex machines, ships, buildings, practically anything? Screws are essential components in countless products, and as global trade expanded, so did the need for reliable, readily available screws.
Okay. I'm starting to see the connection, but it's still kind of wild to think those tiny fasteners play such a big role in international trade.
It is wild.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that seemingly small things can have huge ripple effects. Imagine trying to build a car with parts sourced from all over the world.
Okay.
Different companies, different countries, different manufacturing standards.
Right.
Standardized screws, thanks to those threads we talked about, ensured that everything could fit together seamlessly no matter where it came from.
So basically, standardized screws are like the universal language of manufacturing.
Yeah.
They allowed for the kind of global supply chains and complex products we see today.
Exactly. They're the unsung heroes of globalization,
Wow.
enabling companies to source parts from all over the world and assemble them into finished products.
Yeah.
Without standardized screws, the global economy as we know it would look very different.
Wow. I never realized those little spirals held the world together in such a literal way.
But what about the future? Are we going to be stuck with the same old screws forever?
Not at all. The world of screws is still evolving.
Well, good.
One of the most exciting developments is the use of advanced materials.
Think lightweight composites, super strong alloys, even biocompatible polymers.
So we could have screws made of plastic,
Yes,
or even materials that could be used inside the human body.
exactly. These advanced materials open up all sorts of possibilities for lighter, stronger, and more sustainable products.
Wow.
We could see everything from aerospace components and medical devices to more efficient wind turbines and solar panels,
Wow, that's incredible.
all held together with specialized screws.
It seems like screws are constantly being reinvented and adapted to new challenges. Even in our high-tech world, they still play a crucial role.
Absolutely. And this constant innovation is what makes the story of the screw so fascinating.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the most commonplace objects have a hidden history
Yeah.
and an exciting future full of possibilities.
Okay, so to wrap this all up, we've journeyed from ancient Greece to the battlefields of World War II, explored the fierce competition between different designs, and even glimpsed into the future of screws. It's been a mind-blowing deep dive into a topic I honestly never thought twice about.
It's amazing what you can discover when you take a closer look at the seemingly mundane, isn't it?
Yeah.
The humble screw is a testament to human ingenuity, adaptability, and the interconnectedness of our world.
So the next time you use a screwdriver, take a moment to appreciate that tiny marvel in your hand.
Yes,
It represents centuries of innovation and a world of possibilities.
and never underestimate the power of a good screw.
That's a wrap for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey into the world of screws. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, there's always more to discover.